Well, hello everybody. Happy Sunday. I think it's Sunday, the 21st of 2025. Very nice day here in California. Bright, sunny day. It's going to be sunny for the next, I don't know, couple days.
I just learned today that today is the solstice.
Yeah, and today's a solstice. Yeah, so I told my husband, I was like, isn't today the winter solstice? And he's like, yeah, maybe it was last week. I'm like, no, it's today. And he Googled it. So yeah, today's the winter solstice, everybody.
I thought most of the time that falls right on Christmas Day, but
yeah. Sorry, you guys. My husband is in the background.
Yes, I am. I'm always in the background.
Yeah.
I'm always watching.
Okay. All right. So you guys today, basically, I'm going to be watching a couple videos from the previous lady that I've been watching on YouTube. She has completed the Master Gardening program. And you guys, like I said, I'm going to be on my 11th week. So I just completed my 10th week Saturday, and I have a midterm. Yay! So exciting. Homework. But I'm going to be watching a couple of videos because she kind of explains it better than the teacher did for me. I'm having a hard time paying attention, or like the teacher grasping my interest. So for me, I search a lot on YouTube. So I just came across her before I started the Master Gardening program, and the way she talked and the way she presented herself was really easy for me to understand and follow along. So hopefully you guys don't mind exploring this lovely journey of mine. I'll be showing you guys my midterm. This is what it looks like. I'm going to share my screen. So yeah, this is my midterm. Can you guys see my screen? Candace? Candace?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, cool. So basically, this is the UCCE San Bernardino midterm, Master Gardening midterm, and it's due obviously January 3rd before class. And I have a Saturday class, you guys. So basically, this each test is different throughout each county, so they change it all the time. So basically, I have true and false questions. Okay, so I think I have. Let's see here. How many true and false questions? I have 14 true and false questions, and they're worth 2 points. Okay, I have multiple choice. Okay, let's see how many of those I have. Probably the same amount. We have multiple choice. Like I'm pretty got those down. And then we have short answers. Like please list 3 following questions you would ask a caller who asked you to following the initial question. Okay, so what they mean by a caller, that would be like the helpline. Okay, either via email or a Master Gardening picking up the phone and answering your question. Okay, so the first thing would be like the person's like, okay, we ask, okay, what is wrong with your plant? What is wrong with your squash plant? Okay, because you're having problems with your squash plant. Okay, so I would have to list up 3 questions like, okay, so what symptoms are you seeing on that squash plant? So that would be a question that I would ask you. Okay, and then I'd be example like, is your leaves yellowing? Are there spots? Is it wilting? Just basic standard little questions that you can observably see. Okay, what type of symptoms? Obviously, is it yellowing? Or maybe I'm getting too much nutrients. Why is there holes? Is there like plant? Is there other insects? Things like that. Okay, where on the plants is the problem occurring? Okay, is it happening on the leaves? This is something that I would be asking you. Okay, because you're calling me and you're having issues with your squash. And as a master gardener, these are the type of thing that's some of the things that we would be asking you. These are just 3. Okay. So, like I said, where on the plant is a problem occurring? Okay. The other one would be is how is the plant being watered and how often? Okay. Because sometimes overhead versus drip irrigation, frequent water, too much water could kill a plant. Recent weather conditions, okay, things like that. So this is my answer to that question, okay. And then I have a book, and then I just, go through, the UCCE website, and they have publications. So that's where I would go and find this type of information. Or I would use ChatGPT. But ChatGPT can be wrong because it has been wrong, and I've gotten a couple of questions wrong on my master food preserving final. Okay, and I did it every which way, and Benny was even helping me, and so we were like back and forth with like 2 questions, and I still got them wrong. So yeah, so never trust ChatGPT. Like, make sure you look at the website, a credible uh resource like .edu, okay? Research based. Okay, you guys, what you're going to be hearing me say all the time. Research based information, scientific research based information. Okay? And as a master food preserver, I'll be saying the same thing. Okay, so these are my some of the questions. All right. And as I scroll down, you'll see more questions. So that's what my midterm looks like. So and that's due on the 3rd. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna watch some videos, you guys. And I think we left off on yeah, I'm on a week 11, and the past couple of weeks, my lives I've been doing my tent growing, so I missed like several weeks. I've watched her YouTube channel several times, so I kind of know what she's gonna say, but sometimes I miss something. I'm like, oh, okay, I heard the teacher say something about that in my Zoom, but then this person, the YouTuber that I listen to, she breaks it down where it's easier for me to understand. Okay. All right. So we're going to watch, which is week 4. Okay. So this is like, I don't know, weeks ago for me. Okay. So this will be on my midterm. Okay. Vegetable gardening, all this stuff will be on my midterm. Okay. So just take notes and, take notes for yourself, and hopefully you guys learn something. All right, you guys. You can see my screen, right?
Mhm.
You can see my screen, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Ready, lights, camera, action. All right, you guys. So we're going to talk about plant propagation. Okay. I have not done it before, but I watched her video, and I want to try it. I just haven't had the time to try it yet. So I'm still learning the whole process on everything. Okay, so we're all learning together, and it's a learning process. And we just get through it one way or another. All right, let's go.
Then we can hear the audio. We we can't hear the audio though.
What do I do without me being muted? Okay, let me see. I've done this before on Bandcamp. Hang on. Let's try this again. Because I did it off a, I was able to mute myself last time. I don't know how I did it, but I had the same problem. Because I want to mute myself on my end. You know what? I know what I need to do. Let's turn this color around. Let's see here. Let me stop sharing my screen. And then I'm just going to share the YouTube. All right. Let me see here. Window. No. Is it this one? Is this it? Can you see it? Yes, can you see it? Can you guys hear it?
Mm-mm.
Ah, you guys can? You guys could hear that? But if I
Uh-uh.
shut mine off, my mic, I wonder if you guys can hear it.
Shade or anything like that.
Oh gosh, I love Indian food in London. I can never get enough.
Whoa, blimey.
Earn rewards wherever you book travel. The Autograph Journey credit card from Wells Fargo. Terms apply.
You get hurt in a car accident and they give you a check that wouldn't cover my shoe shine? That's disrespect. With Case Connect, you don't just settle, you
It would just be easier to separate the two parts. So I do have a part one, which is all about like composting 101, composting for beginners,
Did you hear that?
backyard composting, and
Yes.
vermicomposting. So I will link it up above right now, and then I will also link it at the end of this video, so you all can watch that if you haven't.
Just
Hang
share
on.
your Chrome
Candace,
window.
can you hear that?
Yeah, we hear it now.
Candace, were you able? Oh, you were able to hear it? Okay, now I can. Yeah, I had to share my window screen of my YouTube. So when I share my screen, I have to go to the actual window so you guys can see. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, you guys,
All
sorry.
the audio plays from the application.
Yeah, all right, you guys, sorry about that. Thank you for. And once I switch screens, I'll be on mute. So if you're trying to say some, I'm not. I can hear you, but you're probably not going to hear me because I would have to mute myself. So here we go.
Hey everyone, Janie here. Welcome back to my garden and welcome to part 2 of my week 4 Master Gardeners training recap. So week 4, we had actually 2 topics that we learned about at my Master Gardeners training program, and I was kind of going back and forth how I was going to fit both of them in one recap video, and I decided it would just be easier to separate the 2 parts. So I do have a part 1, which is all about like composting 101, composting for beginners, backyard composting, and vermicomposting. So I will link it up above right now, and then I will also link it at the end of this video so you all can watch that if you haven't watched that part of this recap yet. For part 2 is all about propagating. And when I saw propagation on the syllabus for my Master Gardeners training that day, I thought, I know propagation. I know everything about propagation. I've looked it up, I've watched videos on it, I've read books on it. I know about propagation. There's nothing that I'm gonna learn. And of course, I was completely wrong. I learned so much. I was so interested. I took tons of notes, and I wanted to share everything I learned with all of you. So our presenter for the propagation portion of the training class, his name is Jim Fowler, and he's pretty well known around here. He's a pretty well known gardener. He is a master gardener as well, and he actually is one of the propagators at our local college, UC Davis, the UC Davis Arboretum. It's a fantastic arboretum. If any of you have a chance to visit, you should absolutely go visit. But they do propagate their plants for not only for the arboretum, but also for the plant sale. They have a couple plant sales every year, and they get those plants by propagation, by cuttings. And so Jim Fowler has, I guess he started volunteering years and years and years ago, and they trained him in the ways of propagation from UC Davis. And now they actually have the students that do the propagation. So he actually was grandfathered in, but I am just honored to be able to hear what he had to teach us for propagating. So there are lots of ways to propagate plants. We all know propagation by seed, and the problem with propagation by seed is hybridization. There's a lot of big words today, so just bear with me. So when plants get pollinated by bees or butterflies or anything like that, they go from plant to plant and they can have cross-pollination. So when you propagate a plant by seed, when you grow a plant from seed, unless you grow that plant in very secluded areas where you're only growing that particular plant, you have a chance that you can get like a brother or sister of the plant that you're trying to grow. When you propagate a plant by cutting or by division, you are guaranteed to get the same plant as the mother plant that you're propagating from. So that's great. It avoids the hybridization and it avoids the cross-pollination issue, but it also decreases genetic diversity. So if we do this too much, obviously we're putting ourselves at risk for, if a pathogen comes through and it knocks out one particular type of plant, then we're out of luck. So
everything in life is a negotiation. You're probably in 3 to 7 negotiations every single day.
Genetic diversity is important. Propagation by both ways is very important. But today, the demonstration that I'm going to do, this is just propagation by cutting, how to get the exact plant from the cutting that you're taking. Okay, I just have to say, if you hear a sound outside, Jason is out back and he is power washing. He is literally obsessed with power washing our entire property. It looks absolutely beautiful, but he's been working on it all day and I have a feeling you all can hear it. So if you hear it, it's Jason outside power washing. So for this Master Gardener's training recap, I thought the easiest way to get the information across was just to demonstrate it. The presenter did a demonstration in class and it was extremely helpful and very, very interesting because I had never seen some of these techniques. And now these techniques are all from UC Davis Arboretum. That doesn't mean that it is the only way to do it or it's the exact way to do it. I have read a lot of things and it did not use this technique. I just thought it was really interesting, and this is of course scientific and research-backed information that they teach us in Master Gardeners. So I think it's just interesting to know this and to see exactly how they do it. Now, it's not exact, particularly with my growth hormone, and I will get to that, but this is the best way that I can replicate it in my home. Okay, so to get started, you can see I have 2 bowls here, and this was different than I had done before. I have 1 bowl of just tap water, and then this is going to be my disinfectant, my bleach water. And what they said is they said 1 part bleach to 9 parts water. And this is going to kill any pathogens that could get in the cutting or could get on your equipment. And I have heard about disinfecting and keeping everything nice and clean, but I've actually never seen people take a bowl of bleach water and use that basically to go to that extent. But this is exactly how they do it at the UC Davis Arboretum. So I did 1 part of bleach and now I'm going to do 9 parts of tap water. All right, so this is my disinfecting medium, and then I do have a bowl of regular clean water that I'm gonna keep. So I have my snips right here. You can use basically anything, and the idea is that you obviously want to clean it first. So you just kind of want to dip them into your bleach water, and then obviously you want to dry these off so that they don't rust, and you can spray a little bit of oil on them. I think I'm just gonna dry them off. So after you've got them in your bleach water, you want to leave it in for about 30 seconds. And then you just want to kind of clean them all off. All right, so now my snips are nice and clean and sterilized. And then I also want to sterilize my skewer, my dibbler. So I'm going to use this when I have my rooting medium. I'm going to use this to make a hole where I put my cutting in, but you also want to sterilize this as well. So same thing, putting it in the bleach water and then putting it in the clean water to clean it off. All right, now for the cutting. So I just went out into my garden. It is mid-January, so nothing's looking really good right now, but I did find a little bit of new growth on my Mystic Spires blue salvia. So I just took a stem, a piece of that, and the piece that I took the part where there's the new growth. This is the top, this is the apical part where the new leaves are coming out. And when you do a cutting, you want to aim for the new growth. You can take cuttings down here, but when you take cuttings down here, you have to wait for the hormone that stimulates new growth. You have to wait for the hormone to accumulate in this mid part cutting, whereas all of those hormones that stimulate growth are already concentrated up here in the apical part or the top part of your cutting. So I am going to take my cutting from this very top part of my salvia. What you want to do is you want to take off all the leaves from the lower nodes. They actually said that you don't want to rip the leaves off or scar the cambium layer, which is different for a different type of propagation. The way that I'm doing this, they say that you want to just pinch off the leaves on each of the nodes without scratching that cambium layer, the outer layer of the stem. So what you're looking for is you're looking for one node where the roots can come off. Now, this type of propagation, you only need one node. You can do two nodes if you want, but it's absolutely not necessary. You really only need one. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this cutting. You can see right here, I have my leaves on top. I have a node here and I have a node here. Really, I only need this node right here. So I am gonna cut just below that.
I took two things that I love, dancing and dogs, and I made them into a successful business. Hi, I'm Ron.
That node, and I'm going to cut at a 45-degree angle, and the purpose of cutting at a 45-degree angle is to get as much moisture, to allow as much moisture uptake or water uptake into that stem. Then I'm going to actually take off these extra leaves up here, and I'm left with just these two little leaves. If I had bigger leaves, what you could do, I'll even do it with this one, is that you can actually cut these leaves in half. That's going to decrease the transpiration rate, or the rate that the leaves are transpiring water and making them dry out too quickly. Remember, there's no roots on this cutting, so the cutting is not getting any water from its roots. So it's only getting the water from what you're giving to it, and so if there's too much leaf material, then it's going to transpire the moisture too quickly. So you don't want too many leaves on your cutting. You also don't want any buds or flowers on your cutting. If you have buds or flowers, those are very concentrated in growth hormone, which is great, but it's also going to continue to send the energy to buds or flowers to make seeds, and we don't want that. So if you do have any flowers, just go ahead and pinch them off of your cutting. All right, so now you have your cutting. Hopefully you all can see that. Now you have your cutting, you have about one node. I actually have another node up here. So when I'm talking about nodes, nodes are the spot on the stem where the leaves come up. And we have nodes, and then we also have internodes, which is the space in between each of the nodes. And if you're going to take a cutting, not at the very tip, not at the growth point, but a little bit further down on the plant, you're going to be left with an internode on the top of your cutting right there. And you actually don't want this. I found this to be really interesting. This is what they taught us. If you leave an internode, a really long internode right there, that cutting is not going to start rooting and it's not going to start propagating itself until this part, this internode, kind of decomposes, and then that rooting hormone can concentrate in the top node with the leaves. So the longer the internode that you leave on your cutting, the longer the propagation, the rooting is going to take place, is going to need, and you're opening yourself to more risk of infection or pathogens or anything like that. So if you're going to do a middle of the stem cutting, you want to make sure you cut down those internodes as much as possible. All right, now for what I thought was the really interesting part. I had never done this before. I have my cutting. This is from the top, the apical part, or the top part of the plant, the new growth. I have about 1 node. I actually have 2 nodes on this one, and I don't have too many leaves on there. I'm gonna take my cutting before I stick it into my rooting medium, and I'm gonna put it in my bleach water, which I found really, really interesting. I had never done this before. What that's gonna do is it's actually gonna kill all the pathogens that might infect this cutting after you've stuck it. So if you have any bacteria on there, if you have any viruses on there, if you have any mold on there, putting it in this diluted bleach water solution is going to kill all of that, and it's going to give this cutting a better chance of survival while you're waiting for it to root. So you're going to leave it in the bleach water, and then you're going to take it out and you're going to put it into the clean water to get all that bleach water off. So now you know that cutting is nice and clean. Now let's talk about rooting hormone. So like I said, in the new growth of the plant, there is a concentration of growth hormone, and that is a natural auxin. They call it an auxin that's found in plants. There are 2 synthetic auxins that we use for propagation, and I have to grab my notes because I can't remember them. So the growth hormone in the plant that's already naturally in there is indolacetic acid. The synthetic ones are indole 3-butyric acid and 1-naphthalene acetic acid, so IBA and NAA. So a rooting hormone or a rooting powder usually has one or both of these rooting hormones present. And what it does is it just helps the rooting or the cutting grow roots and get that growth process going. So like I said, I'm not mimicking exactly UC Davis's Arboretum propagation techniques because apparently they have their own rooting hormone that is not available to the public and it's kept under lock and key. Our presenter was telling us, which I just found so interesting, and I wish I knew what it was, but the ones that are available to the public are those 2 that I was talking about. So the presenter demonstrated a rooting powder, which only had 1 of the rooting hormones. I have always used Dip and Grow. I got this at my local garden center. You can get it off Amazon as well. I'll link this in my Amazon store. This one actually has both. Both of those auxins, those synthetic hormones available. It has both the indole 3-butyric acid and the 1-naphthalene acetic acid. I know I'm saying that wrong, so I'm sorry. So I have always used Dip and Grow. I've had really good success with it. It is a liquid, it is not a powder. And what you do is you just put a little bit, like literally up to here, so it lasts forever, and then you dilute the rest with water. So here it is. This can stick up to like thousands of cuttings, right? Obviously don't need that many today, but I just made a batch just so I can show all of you. Okay, now let's talk about what type of medium you're going to use for sticking your cutting. So basically you want a medium that is sterile. You don't want to use garden soil or potting soil because it might have some bacteria that will, infect the cutting and kill it off and negate everything that we did with the bleach solution. So what I have here is I have seed starting mix, which is a sterile medium for seed starting, and it's just what I have. What they use at the Arboretum is actually half perlite and half vermiculite, which I have done that before and it works really well. The goal of your rooting medium is you want it to have the ability to contain moisture, but then you also want it to create some air pockets so that the cutting can breathe. So like I said, I've done the vermiculite and the perlite mix before. I just hate perlite. It makes me cough so bad. So it's a volcanic substance, and it's so powdery. It just makes me cough every time I use it. So be careful if you go get perlite. Vermiculite doesn't make me cough, but that is what they use at the Arboretum. All right, and now for sticking your cutting. And sticking your cutting is the term where you just put your cutting into your rooting medium. So what you want to do is you want to take your clean skewer and you just want to make a hole into your rooting medium. Now, your rooting medium, you want it to be moist, the consistency of a wrung out sponge. Like I said, this is my seed starting mix. It's already moist, it's ready to go. Then you want to take your clean cutting and dip it into your rooting hormone. I have a liquid here, but if you have a powder, you're just going to dip it in and then you're going to shake off the rest of the powder. Because I have a liquid, I actually have to leave it in here for about 5 seconds. That's what the instructions say on the Dip and Grow rooting hormone. So I just leave it in here and then I just let the rest drip off. I take my cutting and I just stick it right into my rooting medium or my seed starting mix. Pinch it in, and there we go. All right, so you're all done with your cutting. It's all ready to go. Now what? So the recommendation was to get a tray with a cover just like this. I have tons of these from seed starting. The difference is that when you have your tray, you want to poke holes. You want to poke air holes in your tray. Now, if you had something like a spinach container or a strawberry plastic container, I think those would be really, really good to use as well because they already have air holes in it. But basically you want a plastic container that's clear on the top that does have air holes. Then you're going to take your cutting and you're going to put it in and you're going to fill your tray with about 1/4 inch of water. And what that's going to do is that's going to keep the whole thing moist, allow for the evaporation onto the plastic tray, and just keep that cutting nice and moist and not allow it to dry out. What the presenter said is that once you put in about 1/4 inch of water, you can basically leave it there for about 8 to 10 days and not even pay attention to it before you need to add a little bit more water. So it's basically a completely contained environment that's going to be the best environment for your cutting to start propagating and developing those roots. Now, you can leave this whole thing outside in the shade. It's too hot. Sun is too hot for it to leave it in the sun. So you can put it in the shade, but an even better place to do it is to put it right under your grow lights. And what the presenter said is the closer that you can get to that cutting, the better. Absolutely the better. That's why he likes using these trays rather than the bigger trays, because he couldn't get the lights close enough and all of his cuttings kept stretching. So putting this whole thing with 1/4 inch of water underneath grow lights and then leaving it there for 6 weeks. So that's what he said. It usually takes about 6 weeks for a cutting on average to grow roots. So basically you can put 6 weeks from today onto your calendar, and that's when you know that your cutting is most likely going to be have developed roots, and you can pot it up into a more nutrition rich medium like potting soil or anything like that, because now it has roots and it's a little bit stronger and it can survive. So basically this whole process of propagation takes about 6 weeks. So just as a recap, the Master Gardener's training recommendations for propagation are taking your stem cuttings from the new growth on a plant. I have always done it, all the way down the plant. I've done it on the lateral shoots and everything like that. And I get why they say take it from the tip, because the tip is where it has all the new growth hormones already concentrated, and it's going to allow that cutting to grow that much faster. Tip number 2 is to sterilize absolutely everything. Not only do you want to clean and sterilize your container, your tray, your snips, your skewer, you actually want to sterilize the cutting, which that was total news to me. I had never seen that before, and I can't wait to try out a bunch of cuttings and see how much better I do now that I'm sterilizing my cuttings in that bleach water. So I found that incredibly interesting. Tip number 3 is using the right rooting hormone. Now, they did say there are times when you don't need a rooting hormone. There's certain times of year where there's so much of that natural growth auxin there present that you don't need the rooting hormone, but the rooting hormone will just make it that much easier. And knowing which type of auxins you're looking for, these two, is really going to help you out in the long run. Again, I really like Dip and Grow. I've heard a lot of people say that this stuff is fantastic, and it has both of the synthetic hormones that you need for cuttings. Tip number 4 is the environment that you're going to keep your cuttings in after you're done. I was always a little bit confused at this point. You know, I've seen the thing where they say, put it in a garbage bag or put it outside in the shade or anything like that. This whole solution to me makes it very, very simple. Get an enclosed space with a clear top, have air holes in it so that oxygen can get to the area, and then have it basically sit in water while it's rooting. That's going to keep it nice and hydrated and moist. And then as that cutting starts developing roots, because it's bottom watered, because it's sitting in the water, you're going to be able to pick up your cutting and you're going to be able to see the roots come out the bottom. And then you know your cutting is rooted in and you can transplant it into regular potting soil or wherever you want to put it. Somebody did ask the presenter about putting cuttings on a heat mat. And what he said is that he has tried it before. I mean, he has years and years and years of propagating experience, and they've tried a heat mat before and they really didn't see much difference. The main difference came from how close the grow lights were to the cutting. So if you have a heat mat, great, but it's not really necessary. Save that for seed germination. The main thing is have your grow lights as close as possible. I think when I do this, I'm just gonna bump it up so it can be super close to the grow lights. And then you know that cutting is going to get enough light and it's going to photosynthesize enough so that it can start producing those roots. So I hope this was helpful for all of you. I found it fascinating to watch a master propagator do his thing. I just felt like it was so interesting to see, a very specific way to do cuttings and a way that definitely works. I wish I knew the Arboretum's secret rooting hormone. I wish I could find out what that was, even though I wouldn't have access to it. I would just be interested to know. But for now, I'm happy to use the over-the-counter stuff that they have for rooting hormones. So I hope this was helpful for you all. Again, not every plant is going to propagate this way. You can look up lists online what plants are good for cuttings. Salvias are fantastic to start with. If you're starting off propagating, start off with propagating salvias because you're most likely going to be successful with that. There's other plants that you can do that you might not be as successful. And just as with seed starting, you're not going to get 100% germination rate. You're not going to get 100% rooting rate on your cuttings either. So don't expect 100%. You're not a failure. That's why you always do more than you need, so that if some of them fail, you're still doing pretty good. So in about 6 weeks, I will have a new Mystic Spires Blue Salvia all ready to go. So I hope you all enjoyed this, and I hope you all have a chance to get into your garden today.
Sorry about that, you guys. My computer is like a delay. So, did you guys learn anything? Because has anybody propagated before? I have not. I've done clones, but I've never done any like stem propagating from like trees or anything. Candace, have you?
I was gonna say, but did that lady share with you your curriculum?
Yeah. What's that?
I say I've tried, but no success.
Yeah. So what type of plant were you trying to propagate?
Roses.
Oh, roses?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Like, was there like a specific like rose that you were trying to do? Was it like I don't know, there's so many types of roses. Like, oh, that'd be hard.
You're trying to get into flowers too, aren't you?
Yeah, I love flowers. I love roses and stuff. And I want to be like a certified florist. And I looked at their exam and oh my goodness, I was like, this is crazy. The amount of things that a florist needs to know about flowers is crazy, you guys. So I got the book to take the exam and just getting like all the cool information to help me with my gardening is helping as well, because eventually, you have all these flowers, and to start a business, why not just freaking sell it? I have all this abundance of flowers that eventually are gonna, they're summer, they're gonna
Yeah,
die. So
don't
might
need
as
to
well
be able
count
to
them
pass the
back.
exam to be able to do that.
And then you can also do
Yeah.
them as gifts. Like, I think that's pretty cool. Something that we want to get into. Maybe like have a farm stand and people can, grow, create their own bouquet. Go through my garden and build their own bouquet. And that'd be really cool to do and teach them what flowers are what and all that cool stuff. So it'd be kind of like a trail or some. I don't know. My brain like thinks so many things, but yeah, that's going to be on my exam as well, propagation, and then there's
I don't think you need to be doing 3 volunteer programs running alongside each other. That might be too much.
My husband thinks that's too much for me. I'm like, I do the volunteer work almost, pretty much. Like, okay, you guys, now let's do another certification or some,
But the main thing, they all require CTEs. Like, how many CTEs do you want to have to do?
So now we're going to do gardening, that's gardening. Okay, so this is week 5. Sorry, I'm in the sun right now, so in my eye. Every single commercial is like perfume expensive, you guys. Pause it so I can. My broadband is not the strongest. It's just saying week. Part 2. I think it's this thing. Okay, you guys. So
scenes, citrus caviar. These are finger limes.
Usually film them on.
This holiday season, she's concealing something, and he
Usually film them on Saturday. My Master Gardener's course is on Fridays, and I usually need a day for my brain to kind of just relax just a little bit, just for all the information that was thrown at me the day before to kind of sink in. This week is kind of different though. This week overview week. This week was all about vegetable gardening and gardener. I'm sure you all know that my veggie garden in my backyard is tiny. It's like absolutely nothing. And it's something that it's one of the skills that I definitely want to work on as a gardener. But it was just so funny because I could totally tell the difference in my class today between veggie gardeners and then veggie gardeners. The veggie gardener kind of a day like that, which was, it's great. This is what I love about gardening, is that you never finish learning, and you're learning something new every day. And I feel like that I haven't even gotten to the point to really dive in to all there is to know about vegetable gardening. So this was kind of an overview day. The class today was really focused on how we as master gardeners would help out the general public. So a lot of things that the general public would most likely ask us about vegetable gardening, garden and then how we could answer that. So like I said, the class today was pretty much an overview of veggie gardening. It didn't get into too many specifics, and I kind of like the specifics because I feel like that's the stuff that's really helpful with gardening, but I understand why most of this class today was overview, because veggie gardening is a huge topic. Like, you can't take a huge topic like veggie gardening and distill it down into 4 hours and have that be enough time to tell us all the information we need. So I completely understand why the class was presented the way it was. So it almost left me with more questions, right? So I think I have a lot of research to do. I have a lot of things that I want to look into about veggie gardening, and I think it's going to take me a couple years to get really comfortable with veggie gardening. I have been gardening for about 3 or 4 years now, and I feel pretty comfortable with ornamental gardening. Of course, I always learn something new. Every day I'm learning something new, but you'll see I don't do a ton of veggie gardening videos because I'm just not as confident with the subject. So I'm hoping that this is kind of the beginning of me really expanding my knowledge into veggie gardening. All right, so I had to come outside. I just had to get some fresh air because I've been inside all morning. I do have a squirrel that's yelling at me across the street. So if you guys hear that, that's what it is. So the presenters started off with talking about how you would set up your veggie garden, where on your property you would want a veggie garden if you were starting from scratch, and kind of where you would want to locate it. And of course you would want to locate it in as sunny a spot as you possibly could. So they talked about the south side of your house being the best spot, and even like the south side of my house is my backyard. So I would be planting my veggie garden in my backyard, which is of course where it is. But if your south side of your house is located in your front yard, you might want to think about putting your veggie garden in your front yard just to get as much of the sunlight as you need. They were telling us that if you divide veggies up into fruits, roots, and leaf vegetables. So fruits would be like tomatoes or cucumbers. Roots would be like carrots or potatoes. And leaf would be like lettuce or something like that. So fruits need at least 8 hours of sun. Roots need on average at least 6 hours of sun, and then leafy vegetables need on average at least 4 hours of sun. So even if you're growing leafy vegetables, which are usually cool season crops, you have to think about where the sun is in the winter sky. It's much lower. You still want at least 4 hours for them to grow properly.
Old Navy. Yeah? Wave hi, Frank.
Oh.
Confidence isn't something you have, it's something you do. As behavior researcher, speaker,
properly. All right, and the next thing they were talking about is the size of your veggie garden. And this is something I need to keep hearing, and I'm going to keep saying it to you all over and over again, is start small. Start small, get comfortable with it, and then expand. So I have been, kind of frustrated that my veggie garden, my kitchen garden in my backyard is so small. It is not big, not a lot of space, and I thinking, oh, I want all these garden beds, these raised beds for this vegetable garden, but I am not a vegetable gardener. So actually my kitchen garden in my backyard is the perfect size for me to start off with. So that's what they recommended that we tell everybody, that all the public that comes up to us, is make sure that you are starting small. And then considering the layout, you want to do beds, you don't want to do rows. You want it to be all kind of stuck in one spot as opposed to one long thin line going all the way down one edge of your yard. So one of the interesting things that they started talking about was how it is a luxury for us to have ornamental gardens, right? It is a luxury for us to have lawns. It is a luxury for us to have flowers, because when people used to have gardens to feed themselves, they didn't have the luxury to spend, that much space to put lawn or that much space to put shrubs or anything like that. that. So it's a relatively new idea to have your vegetable garden completely separated from your ornamental garden. You know, your front yard looks beautiful and your backyard has the veggie garden that might be a little bit more messy. So they started talking about edible landscaping and how important that could be for the general public and for us as gardeners, which is basically combining vegetables, combining edible plants into your ornamental garden. So you pick beautiful vegetables that you can kind of put in different places, so you don't have to have one specific area for a veggie garden bed. I thought this was super interesting, especially for me that loves ornamental gardening, loves flowers, loves plants. Can I incorporate any edible landscaping into my garden? And it is definitely something that I want to work on. They did start talking about somebody who is like the master of edible landscaping, and her name is Rosalind Creasy, Creasy. Apparently she's written tons of books about this. And of course, I mean, I have been buying books like every week from Master Gardeners, I've been buying a new book, but I'm going to start looking into her. I have no recommendations. They didn't give me any specific book recommendations, but she is someone that I want to start looking into, because I think edible landscaping is the direction that I want to go in my vegetable gardening journey. Because I think if you can make a vegetable garden beautiful and you can kind of, you know, put a zucchini plant here, put, you know, some borage over here with the beautiful flowers, I think that would be a really neat way to accent my garden with some veggies. All right, and then the presenter started talking about vegetable families, the different families that the vegetables were in. I am going to butcher the names of these families, so just be prepared. I will start with the easy ones, like the allium family. We all know that has onions, leeks, garlics, chives, and scallions. The brassica family with broccoli, bok choy, and then like the solanaceae family, which is the We're going over the families and how important it was as a vegetable gardener to understand the different types of families that the vegetables are put in, because they're going to grow similarly, and then also they're going to be susceptible to the same type of pests, and then they're also going the same way. So it's important to understand which type of families each vegetable is in, just for the knowledge for you as a vegetable gardener to understand what you're working with. So I think the vegetable families is a topic that I need to learn more about, just like the botanical names. I think that once you start understanding really the nature of why this plant is in a certain family along with this plant, it's just going to make you understand the whole topic of vegetable gardening a little bit better. So it is something that I need to look into. Again, this class today was more of an overview, and they were kind of just going over everything. So I'm going to take it upon myself to research it more. And I'm telling you all of this because the presenters said it was a good thing to understand and know what type of families each vegetable belongs to, so that you understand what you're planting, what you're growing, and what you're eating. So the presenters started talking about other things that we can grow as vegetable gardeners other than just the normal ones, like tomatoes and cucumbers. So everybody grows tomatoes, everybody grows cucumbers, everybody grows basil. What they were saying is, well, for one thing, those are just, those are common. There's so many other really interesting ones that you can grow. Plus, all of those are warm season vegetable garden vegetables. There are a lot of cool season vegetables that are really great as well.
Who's that? I don't know, but she's got 430 million followers on Instagram.
Ah. What's Instagram?
What's Insta...
really great as well. And it's our job as master gardeners to make sure that we're expanding everybody's horizon. So I wrote down a whole bunch of examples. Again, as a novice veggie gardener, I don't think I will be expanding to any of these anytime soon. I think I will start with the cucumbers and the tomatoes and the peppers and all that kind of stuff. But one day, herbs, right? Just different perennial and annual herbs, of course, basil and parsley and dill and borage. And tarragon, you know, all the things that you think about. One thing that they said that I didn't know was that parsley is actually a biennial. It only lives for 2 years, which I found really interesting because I actually have a parsley plant in my backyard that's doing wonderful right now through the winter. And so I thought, oh, that's great, parsley for me. And no, it's gonna bolt this year and it's gonna die this year. It's gonna go to seed. So that was a good thing to know. I just wanted to mention that in case you all didn't know that. Then they started talking about perennial vegetables like asparagus, artichokes, and rhubarb. And none of these I've ever tried. So many artichoke plants. You know, everybody has like an artichoke. Every vegetable gardener has an artichoke plant in their garden. I know. See, I'm such a flower gardener. The flowers are absolutely beautiful. Saying for those of you who don't live in California, I guess 100% of artichokes that come from the United States come from California. So they might not work as well for you in your garden if you don't live in California. But then there is rhubarb. Apparently we have trouble growing rhubarb because we get too hot here. It might work for those of you that don't live in warm climates. Then they started talking about edible weeds. Yes, edible weeds. I thought this was so funny. Purslane, fat hen, dandelion were some of the examples. You could cut them and throw them in your salad or something like that. I was joking with the woman next to me and I was saying, I wonder if you can even purchase dandelion seeds. Like, I wonder if they're actually for sale. I have no idea. I have to check. But the presenters were saying that, you know, about unusual vegetables. I have my notes here, which is why I keep looking down. Romanesco, kohlrabi, which I've heard of, sweet potatoes. I don't think that that's too unique, but they said they mentioned that. Tomatillos, salsify. I've never heard of that. Yacon, I've never heard of that one. And then Mexican sour gherkin, which I have heard of. I actually think my mom grew those. So yeah, so just really interesting stuff that we can expand our horizons and you know, have a little bit more fun with vegetable gardening rather than just the basics. And I think the idea is to pique everybody's interest in vegetable gardening. Aspects of gardening as well. All right, and then talking about tomatoes, how we all grow tomatoes, they were talking about growing transplants versus seeds and the different types of seeds that you can purchase in the store. So I think we all know by now that we can only purchase non-GMO seeds. GMO seeds are only available or genetically modified. Genetically modified organism, is that right? I'll put it right here if that's not right. Those are only commercially grown. We them, so you don't have to worry about purchasing GMO seeds. But then seeds will be labeled as open pollinated, heirloom seeds, or hybrid seeds. So heirloom seeds are kind of like the it thing lately. Like, I love heirloom tomatoes. I think they're but growing heirloom tomatoes might not be that good of an idea for me, at least as a novice veggie gardener. For one thing, all heirlooms are open pollinated, right? I mean, open pollinated means that they're susceptible to cross pollination. It's kind of redundant to kind of say that on a seed pack. Susceptible to diseases, and they might not produce as much as, say, a hybrid seed, a tomato seed. two parent tomatoes, and they've been crossed for beneficial characteristics. As a vegetable garden heirloom variety, but it might not get you what you want. It might be a fun thing to do, but basically don't depend on a lot of productivity. Don't depend on the fact that it might not get some type of disease, or it just might not survive as well. So that was one of the varieties of everything, because they're not all they're made out to be. It's kind of like a marketing thing. And then pointing out, which I thought was hilarious, was super interesting either, because Roma tomatoes are heirlooms and iceberg lettuce is heirlooms. So the other interesting thing about seeds that the presenters talked about was you want to read the information on the back of a vegetable seed packet, but you want to take
Build a website you love with Wix. Where your words
but you want to take it with a grain of salt, right? Which I found really interesting, because if I'm looking at a seed packet for flowers, I am always going to look at the dates on the back, and I'm going to follow them pretty religiously, right? On a flower seed packet, it'll say, so 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost, or something like that. And, you pretty much want to follow that. Well, I guess for vegetable seeds, they're not as specific. And so it'll say, okay, for green beans or for peas or something, say peas, sow in June or sow in May or something like that, right? Well, those recommendations could be from a seed company that's from, say, New York, which is all the way across the country from us, and has a completely different climate than we do. So we would actually sow our peas in February, where somebody else across the country or halfway across the country, just somewhere else, would sow at a different time of year. So you don't always want to watch the timing or listen to the timing on the back of the seed packet. What you actually want to do is you want to find a vegetable planting calendar, some type of local vegetable planting calendar. I think you can Google like Master Gardeners, your region, vegetable planting calendar, and something should come up that's at least pretty close to you. I will put the link for ours here in the Sacramento area of California. I will put the link for ours down below. There are lots of different types of versions, but basically you want to find a regional vegetable planting calendar rather than follow what's on the seed packet, because you don't know where the seeds are from. So I thought that was an interesting piece of information to remember. All right, then they started talking about harvesting tips, which I thought was very handy and very helpful to talk about, especially because we live in a very hot climate, and the heat of the summer can really get to your plants, specifically tomatoes. If it just gets above 90 degrees, then tomatoes just really struggle. So some of the things they were saying was pick early in the morning, right? That's when the plants are going to have the most moisture, and they're going to be the healthiest and last longest. So you always want to harvest early in the morning. You want to harvest often. So again, as a flower gardener, same with flowers, you want to harvest often. You want to harvest your vegetables often. So the life cycle of a vegetable is, they're going to grow up, they're going to set flowers, they're going to set fruit, and then they're going to go to seed, and then they're going to die. And what we're trying to do as vegetable gardeners is we're trying to stretch out the part where they're setting fruit, right? So if you let them get past that step in their life cycle, they're going to think they're done, and they're going to stop producing as much fruit. So harvesting often is super important for fruiting vegetables, but then also super important for leafy type vegetables like spinaches or the leafy brassicas or cut and come again lettuce. You want to keep cutting them. You want to basically keep mowing them down or picking them so the plant still knows that it's time to keep producing. And so that's one of the things that they said was super important was to make sure that you're harvesting very, very often. All right. Then the next topic we went on to was year-round gardening. Basically, your cool season vegetable garden and your warm season vegetable garden. And I feel like most of us focus on our warm season vegetable garden. That's the popular one. That's the tomatoes and the peppers and the basil and the cucumbers and all that fun stuff. But all of that warm season garden, they were making the point that that is all fruits basically that you're eating. You're eating the fruit of the plant. So the nutritional content is not as much as compared to a cool season crop like a broccoli or a cabbage where you're eating basically the whole plant, right? And so you actually get more bang for your buck if you focus on a cool season planting. And I have to say, cool season vegetable planting is something I don't even think of. Like I have a couple lettuces in the back. I have my bunny salad bar and stuff like that. But they were
Bipolar 1 can overwhelm your mind. Sometimes depressive lows.
That happened. Is Tammie muted? No, she's not muted. Just can't hear her.
Zoom. So, how'd you guys like that presentation? She does it really good. I wish I could be, I mean, I'll eventually get to her status, but the way she presentates herself and the way she talks is very like a master gardener would sound, I think. You know, once I start my volunteer work, once I finish my training, you guys, I will sound like totally different. Yeah, so I'm either going to say master gardening. So either I'm going to relate to that or I'm going to relate to both of them and implement them in my gardening and in my my daily life with preserving food, which I haven't done yet, you guys. So hopefully maybe one day we can have like a kitchen Sunday or a kitchen Sunday where we're like, we can all participate in one way or another, whether it be like reading a recipe and someone can share their screen if they have those type of devices, and we'll walk through we'll walk through a recipe